Ani, Two White Feather, Indigenous, Saugeen First Nation, Undunjaba, Nodum, Mayangan. Hello, my name is Two White Feather and I am from Saugeen First Nation. I am Wolf Clan. I am coming to you from Treaty 3 or Between the Lakes, purchased as known as Cambridge, Ontario. I stand proud on these lands that belong to the Anishinaabe, the Neutral, and the Haudenosaunee people. We honor all these nations for their ongoing caretaking of Mother Earth. I encourage you to think about the land you are walking on and upon and acknowledge it by indigenous roots by giving thanks. You may be guided to embrace Minobabwazwin, which means living the good life in Ojibwe, by learning and applying the seven grandfather teachings of respect, truth, love, honesty, bravery, humility, wisdom, so that we can become one rainbow family, standing tall with all our relations. Chimigwech. Now I'll pass it off.
Thank you, Two White Feather, for that land acknowledgement. So it's great to be here live on Facebook and YouTube for this special DWF live session. I am Sabrina Anishinaabe from Bearskin Lake First Nation in Treaty 9 territory, and I'm joining you live from Thunder Bay, located on the traditional lands of the Fort William First Nation, signatory to the Robertson Superior Treaty of 1850. I am the Education Programs Assistant here at the Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack Fund, and I am super excited to be introducing GR Gritt today. Inspired by Cheney's story and Gord's call to build a better Canada, the Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack Fund aims to build cultural understanding and create a path towards reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. DWF's work centers around improving the lives of Indigenous people by building awareness, connection, and education between all people. Secret Path Week runs from October 17th to the 22nd, which marks the dates that Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack joined the spirit world. We call on the people that we call Canada to use Secret Path Week to answer Gord Downie's call to action to do something. This can be done by creating reconciliations and furthering the conversation about the history of residential schools. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and be sure to ask questions in the chat because we will be doing a Q&A later on in this live. So GR Gritt is a Juno Award-winning, two-spirited, transgender, Francophone, Anishinaabe Métis artist. They currently live in Sudbury on Robertson Huron Treaty territory where they grew up. This homecoming coincides with a journey that they feel better represents them. With these changes has come a new voice, both physically and in the growing magnetism of their songwriting. And here's GR Gritt.
Bonjour. Bonjour, everyone. Hello, Anin. GR Gritt, Nindigenakaz, Shabananing in Donji, Swagamak in Dijda Nungam, Gawin Mashe, Gekanamasi and Dodem, Métis, Shako, Anishinaabe in Dao, Miigwech, Bizendawiyek. So, hello, everyone. I just said in my language that my name is GR Gritt, that my family comes from Shabananing, which is now called Killarney, Ontario, or also known as Killarney, Ontario. And I live in Sudbury, so that's the traditional name for Sudbury is Swagamuck. And I don't currently have a clan, and I'm Anishinaabe and Métis from this territory, Robertson Huron Treaty. And I said, thank you, everyone, for listening. So, Miigwech. Miigwech to Isaac for that beautiful opening and line acknowledgement. Miigwech. And I'm so happy that you mentioned like Mino Bemadzewin about living in a good way, living the good life. And I think that's something that I'm trying to work towards every day. It's something that seems so simple, but is really can be really challenging at times, but it's really worth it. So in any case, Miigwech for that opening, Miigwech Sabrina for welcoming me here and introducing me and for having me. Yeah, so I'm going to start. I think I have a little bit of time. I'll do a few songs, and then I think we're going to hop into a Q&A. So I'd love for you all to think about what questions you want to ask and bring forward as I'm singing, and to give you some ideas or some things to reflect on. I am so happy to talk about who I am, my identity. I'm so happy to talk about equipment and this guitar or the microphone or how all this is done, like live streaming and stuff. I'm super happy to speak about songwriting, about what it's like to be an artist or how to become an artist. I really welcome your questions. So please think about your questions, and I'm really excited to chat with you after this. So here we go. I think I'm going to see if I can get some reverb going from your end. So I'm just going to unmute this, and maybe it'll sound different now and sound like I'm in a cave or like in a big room. But if it doesn't, that's okay. For some reason, it's working on my end. Maybe it's not on yours. And that's fine. That happens sometimes. So I think the first song I'm going to share with you, just to warm up a bit, is called Letters and Trees. But it seems like I've already lost my capo. No, here it is. All right. Capo blocks all the strings, changes the key of your instrument that you're playing in. So put on the second fret here, and here we go. I'm gonna take these letters from my room, bring them to some trees. I'll dig a hole and I'll bury them, put them out of their misery. So now that you got somebody new, you don't need to carry your words to me. So the better off lying there in peace among some distant family. It's where I used to see your poetry. Now I only notice cursive on dead trees. And I think about how many rings have been wasted on you and me. So put these pages back in their place, like I am planting a few seeds. Maybe one day, long, long after I've gone, the forest will honor our memories. Branches will be waving goodbye underneath a choir of leaves, restless in the wind, with all their singing and their dancing. And the branches will be waving goodbye underneath a choir of leaves, rejoicing in a life where I could never be happy. that you've got somebody new. They don't need to carry your words to me. So they're better off lying there in peace, forgetting all about me. Miigwech for listening. Thank you so much. This next song is called Quiet Years, and this is one that can be found on the album that I released in 2021, what felt like mid-pandemic, because we're still in a pandemic, but anyways, released it in 2021, and got to play it a lot online. I haven't really toured this album, but I really love it, and I really love these songs. And yeah, so this song is a song about our quiet years, kind of like individually as people, and then quiet years kind of as a group. And it was inspired by some time that I spent on Haida Gwaii. Oh my god, I'm trying to do too many things at once. I'm just gonna chat and then I'll fix my pedal board. So it is a song that's inspired by the silent years. So I went and visited Haida Gwaii and made some amazing friends there. And I got to visit the Heritage Center in Skidegate. And they're doing amazing work of like repatriation, which is going into all these different museums and kind of institutions around the world and taking back sacred artifacts that have been taken, that are on display, or, taken, stolen, maybe gifted, but, a lot of them are there and really need to come home. And so they're doing all this repatriation work of taking all these items back home. And there's a part of this center that is dedicated to the silent years. And those are the years where smallpox was brought purposefully to Haida Gwaii to harm Indigenous people. And then you had the criminalization of language and culture, of potlatching, of ceremony, of dancing, singing, all of that gathering together. And then you also had residential schools come to the island. And so that marked a really, again, they call it the silent years of like, think about it, of like, there's no singing, there's no dancing, there's no ceremony, there's no praying together. Although it was happening in secret, obviously, but you couldn't do it openly and publicly. And that's something that has happened in a lot of North America, happened a lot throughout Turtle Island. And so that made me reflect on my history, my family's history with colonization, from the enfranchisement of my great-grandfather, of, again, having to kind of go underground with all this knowledge and all these ceremonies and all these things, because it was either illegal, or once it became legal, it was like a shameful thing that you had to hide. And so, yeah, that has deeply impacted me and my family. And then I also think of the other side of like, in my bio, you just heard, I'm queer and I'm transgender and I'm non-binary. I'm two-spirit. And so thinking about the silent years of me having to be silent about my identity, about having to hide, about having to really omit and not share parts of myself in order to find safety and to find acceptance with other people, and also within myself. When everything you hear around you is that being gay is bad or all these things are bad, then you start to believe that, and you believe that about yourself. And so it's taken a lot of time to really unpack that and to look at that and to be like, no, like, I can love myself and other people will love me too. And that's okay. It's totally okay to be queer, to be trans, to be non-binary, to be two-spirit. And so, yeah, it just made me think about my own silent years, about all the silent years that people have had to hide who they are and not be able to be authentic and be their genuine selves, and having to keep a part of themselves secret. It takes a lot of energy and it's a really challenging thing to go through. So this song is kind of about that, but a lot of it comes in the form of questions from my Nana, my grandmother, my mom's mom. Her name was Marlene Rock, then married, became Marlene Sear, who's from Killarney, Shabananing, and she passed when I was in my teens, and so this is kind of my way to ask some like difficult questions, some challenging questions to her, even though she's not on this plane, but maybe I'll get answers in a different way. And I think there's still important questions to ask. So anyways, this is Quiet Years. I'm going to fix my pedal board and then I'll start performing. So there we go. Thanks so much for your patience. So, renew Quiet Years, and then I'll do this. Okay. Perfect. Quiet Years. Were you singing songs in silence, hoping to be strong, hanging in the balance, wondering how long you could hold on, waiting out the quiet years? Waiting out the quiet years. Waiting out the quiet years. Have you been comforted by the passages and prayers? We trying to forgive them for stealing all those years. We trying to stay hidden by shortening your hair. Or did you have a vision of a time when they wouldn't care? Waiting out the quiet years. 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 Did you keep it from your children so they'd have a better life? From father down to daughter, to my mother and down to mine. You struggle with not knowing if the choice you made was right. Would you have changed your mind if there wasn't an inside? Waiting out the quiet years. 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 Da, 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 waiting out the quiet years. Thank you. Yeah. Excuse me. So I'm just going to switch my pedal board to my next setting. Okay. So let's going to tune. So yeah, you can't see it, but I have a pedal board, and it's kind of like this. It looks like kind of like a mix between a pedal board and an iPad, maybe almost together. Has a big screen and has a built-in tuner, which is what I'm doing right now, tuning. But it has all my pedals in there, so when I'm traveling, touring, which I'm doing a lot less of now, it has everything built in, so I just bring this one unit with me. Whereas before I used to have this giant pedal board with all these pedals, and it was really heavy, and now I can fit this thing in my backpack, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so anyways, that's what I'm using when I'm kind of looking down and picking up my guitar. This next song is also on the album I just released in 2021, and this is going to be my final song, and then we'll go to the Q&A after this. So this song is called Doubt It, and it is very much in the vein of when we're talking about reconciliation and reconciliation. I find that there has not been much action on the part of the federal government or even provincial government. But so this is kind of a song about, I don't know, just basically to bring awareness and to kind of flip the narrative a bit on folks who don't believe that reconciliation is necessary, or don't believe that that all these like really kind of awful things have happened, from residential school to the pass system to like all these things that the Indian Act has brought, and that all the harms that have been done to Indigenous folks. I've met people who don't believe that that has happened, and it really has. And so this was kind of my song to hopefully reach those people, because music can be a very disarming thing where your defenses aren't up and you are more open. Music does this thing, it vibrates, it really connects us, and we all really feel it, or most of us do. I think everyone does, though. And sometimes it means you can like share these really hard things and have kind of like these hard conversations, and it feels a bit easier through song, through music, through that connection. And so I think it's just easier to be vulnerable. And so I wanted to write a song to kind of show that, hey, if this, you expect a lot from us, of like to get over this, to try and move on, to da-da-da-da-da. And so much responsibility has been put on the shoulders of Indigenous peoples instead of it falling on the shoulders of the people who have done the harm. And this is my way to kind of flip it and be like, if we did to you what you did to us, would you accept just a simple sorry without the action, without showing that anything has changed, without putting in the time and effort to reconcile, to show reciprocity, to kind of balance things out a bit? There needs to be more time of putting in towards action, of making things right. And I don't think 1 year of sorries will cut it. When you think about the sum of all these quiet years, the sum of all this hurt, I don't think you can just say a quick sorry for a year of time when there's been generations of time that have passed. So yeah, this is my way to say, hey, like, yeah, I do want reconciliation to happen, but if the roles were reversed, I don't think you'd be very happy with us. And so can you show a bit of empathy and understanding in why we might not be satisfied with everything that is going on and how we see things can be better? So with that, this is the song Doubt It. And then I'll meet you all for a Q&A or answer questions. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see you or not. I hope so. But yeah, here we go. Okay, I started a little bit too quickly. Hold on. It started like everyone knew for a time. I thought we held the same thread, were one mind. We meant to lay out what each of us needs. You said you were listening, but something's making me doubt it, doubt it, doubt it. You say it's not your fault, your hands are tied as you wrap your strings tight around mine. You ask me for one more day every year, month and week. Your friends say to wait, you know what's best for me. Did it? I doubt it. Did it? 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 Doubt it. If I did to you as you've done to me, take your children, your language, your water and trees. Take your culture, your land, your bones and bodies. Would you ever believe me when I say that I'm sorry? Did it? I doubt it. Did it? 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 Doubt it. Never believe me. Never believe me. I doubt it. I doubt it. Never believe me. Oh, never believe me. I doubt it. Did it? I doubt it. Did it? 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 I doubt it. Miigwech, thank you so much.
Awesome. That was absolutely beautiful.
Miigwech, thank you.
So we're actually going to go to Nation View Public School.
Okay.
They're a grade 5 and 6 class. And if you have multiple questions, be sure to ask.
For sure. I'd love to hear your questions, please.
You're just muted. Yeah.
What inspired you to make music?
Oh, good. That's a great question. I think there's lots of things, but the thing that comes up first for me is that I was bullied a lot in school, which was really not fun. And for me, something that brought me some joy and brought me um, something that made me feel better about myself was to play guitar. Learn to play guitar. I started writing some songs, and it just really made me feel better and made me feel like I could do something fun for me, but maybe I could, it was a way I could connect with other people. And yeah, it just brought me a lot of confidence and joy. And I think it all kind of started there. Yeah.
When did you start to make your music?
Yeah. Oh, good question. Oh, I feel like, you know what? I did start in elementary school, but I feel like I got really a lot more kind of serious about it when I got into high school. But I think I was really lucky that there was this really great music teacher that lived in the town next to where I grew up. And he was a really good teacher. And so my parents put me in lessons, which I'm really lucky and happy about. And so I got into that. I really, really liked practicing and learning. And I started writing some songs for myself. But I feel like when I was in high school, then I met some other kids my age that like playing music too. And then I was in a band, and that was really fun. So I think, yeah, I think that's where it kind of grew more, because it wasn't just something I did for myself after. It was kind of like a way that I made friends, and that I got to express myself and write songs with other people, and we got to perform for people, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Thanks for your question.
What is one of your favorite songs you've created?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, one of my favorite songs I created. Well, oh man, they're like writing songs. I don't know. It's like having it's like they're each kind of individual person in a way, if that makes sense. And so it's really hard to be like, oh, this one's my favorite, but that one's my favorite. But I think, how about out of like the three I wrote today, um, I love all three of them so much. And so the first one I did, Letters and Trees. What I love about that song is that I had this concept about letters, and it's paper, and it's connected to its like tree ancestor, and I was able throughout the whole song to like link to all these things about like there's a line of like, how many rings have been wasted between you and me, and it's like rings of the years of the tree, but also rings could mean like a commitment to someone, right? And so I was able to make all these like little cool little like metaphors and connections that I really liked. And then in the second song that I sang, Quiet Years, when I wrote it, there's all these things like the do 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 do. When I was writing the sketches for the songs, which are kind of like when you do a first draft of something, or when you're first kind of painting or maybe drawing. Um, at first, it's not necessarily a clear picture, but you kind of have your outline. So songwriting can sometimes be like that, where you make kind of like an outline, and then you go deeper into it. And so just in the outline of it, we recorded that part, "Do-do-do-do-do-do," and it was really fun. And that first recording of that first day is still in the song in the recording, and I kept it this day. We didn't even re-record it. We just loved it so much. And so I love that there were these like really beautiful moments that came out just when you're kind of like having fun. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just like really allowing myself to be playful and have fun while recording. Where in the past, I think I would have been like really serious, like this is serious and this has to be the best. No, this time I was just like, I'm just gonna have fun. And this thing came out that I loved, and I kept it in there, and I sing it now all the time, even when around the house. I'll just be like do 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 do. So that's what I love about that song. And then the third song, and Doubt It, and that third one, um, a lot of my songs up to this album, I wouldn't put choruses. They would just be kind of like these stories, and they wouldn't have this repeating thing. And what I like about this song is like, did it, doubt it. I feel like that's something that is really accessible, that like you can learn really quick, and you can sing along if you wanted to. And it's just really catchy. And I love that there's something that I created that is a little bit of an earworm. I think that's pretty cool. So, but you could ask me this question tomorrow. I probably have 3 different things to say about each song. So these are just the things that are coming up right now. So, anyways, miigwech, thank you.
Did you have any partnerships or people to help you when you made your music?
Oh yeah, 100%. So like, I think even big stars that you see on TV or on the radio, like your favorite musicians, like none of those people made it to where they are now without help and without uh, supporters, without collaborators, without people who believed in them. It takes a lot of people to be successful at something. And that's doing anything really, like whether it's music, whether it's in the arts, or whether it's in maths or sciences or anything like that. There's very rarely someone who does something on their own. And so for me, it's like having support from my partners over the years of different like relationships I've been in. All those folks have been really supportive. My current partner right now is like the best. And you know what? I made friends with folks, and I made friends with someone who had a label to put out my music, and even like getting grants for projects. Oh my God, there's so many people, and that's the great thing about it is that you can think of other artists as your competition. I don't like to think that way. A lot of the times we are helping each other out. We'll be like, hey, did you see about this grant? You should apply on this. Or I can apply on this, but you should. I think you'd be so good for this. So it's a lot of really like supporting other people and believing in other people too. It's a lot of giving, It's really important. Yeah. Thank you. Miigwech.
And we just have one more question from a student who can't appear on camera.
Okay.
He's wondering, have you ever been made fun of or picked on for the songs that you've written, the music that you've written? And if so, how did you deal with that and how did you cope with that?
Yeah, I think yes, I have. And even like, so I'm trans, and I identify now as non-binary and as two-spirit and as transgender. But in the past, I was perceived as, and I was raised as a girl, and I was, and a lot of the times, people will just say they don't like music made by girls, and it's very weird, and it's something that's really pervasive and really strange. And so I was picked on that way, to be like, oh, you're not good enough because you're a girl, and I don't believe in that at all. That's so untrue. And other things picked on for like, I'm a fat person and I always have been, and I've been picked on that way. And so sometimes people would pick on me about my music, but it's a way around to like make fun of how I looked, which is not fair and not nice. And sometimes even just because people didn't like the songs. And you know what? It's okay for people to not like your music. I know there's people who don't like my music, and I don't like all music either. But there is a difference between saying like, hey, this just isn't for me. It's like being like, I don't like this tea, or I don't like this type of sandwich. Maybe I don't like tuna sandwiches. I could just be like, that sandwich is not for me. Nothing personal against the sandwich. It's just maybe not for me. And I think we need to learn how to either sometimes keep those criticisms to ourselves of like, maybe it's not helpful to say you don't like that tuna sandwich. Maybe you don't have to say that. And I think it's also just knowing that like we don't have to be like, I don't like tuna sandwiches, therefore I don't like the person who made it. That's really weird too. We don't have to say that. We can just be like, wow, you know what? That tuna sandwich looks really beautiful, and I bet it tastes really good. But maybe I don't want that tuna sandwich right now, So yeah, I guess I've definitely been made fun of for a lot of things, and the thing we have to remember is that like I think it's just important for us to be proud of what we make, and to realize that sometimes people just won't like things, and it's not about us. It's about their taste, and maybe they just don't understand you. And maybe there's a way to bridge that understanding. I don't know that that's your job, but just saying that like a lot of the time it's just really not about you, and not to say that like it can still really hurt, but just try to remember that it's probably not about you, and that I hope you keep writing music, and I hope you keep creating. That's really amazing. And, I think don't let other people discourage you from doing something that you love to do. You're just going to get better and better and better at it. And I wish you a lot of success. Oh, geez. And there's all these questions on the side here. I just want to say miigwech to Nation View. Thank you so much for all of those questions. I hope I answered them in a way that made sense. And yeah.
Thank
miigwech.
you.
Thanks so much.
So we actually have Fox High School. If they can turn on their camera.
Hello.
Bonjour, Anin. Hello.
So we have a few questions from students here. I'm just going to read them out if that works for you.
Sure.
All right. So the first one is GR Gritt, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly,
No, that's fine. That's good.
a stage name? Like they're wondering how they can find your music.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So my name is Grayson. But yeah, as a performer, I use GR Gritt. And you can find my music on Bandcamp. I'm pretty sure you could just find it on YouTube. You can listen for free on YouTube, listen for free on Bandcamp for a bit. And I think I'm not a big fan of Spotify, but you can find it on there if that's where you listen to music. Yeah, I think you could find it just about anywhere online that you would find music. So yeah.
Thank you. The next one we have here is how long did it take you to choreograph your songs?
To choreograph. Like arrange them or write them?
Is that what? Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. But that makes sense. Like choreograph like a dance. Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. Yeah. Geez. You know what? Some songs feel so easy, and they feel like you're just tapped into something so much bigger than you. It's like this song comes and it's like, you need to help me get out there. You need to like help me be in the world, and so it's like you're collaborating with creator or the universe or the creative force that is, I think, all around us. And so sometimes it's so fast and it's like, yeah, and you get it out and it's like your song's done in like 5-10 minutes or something. Like it can feel so effortless and it almost feels like it writes itself. And other times I feel like you're really sculpting something. And it's like if it almost feels like you have this big chunk of like you have this idea, this chunk of wood, and you start kind of carving out. And at first it feels rough, and you're like, maybe I should go in here more. Maybe I should do this more. And then you end up with this something cohesive that like this beautiful kind of whatever piece it is you're trying to do. And so some of them can take, I don't know, even months, maybe even more. Sometimes you have these little bits of song that you're not sure where they go. And then you write a song a year later and you're like, oh, that's what fits there. That's what that was for. You almost got something a bit too early. Yeah. So sometimes it feels easy. Sometimes it takes a lot more effort. And you just keep working at it. And then eventually you feel like, I think this could be done. Really, it never really feels quite done. But I think you just get to a point where you're like, if I work on it anymore, I might ruin what I already have by going too far. You're like, I think I can make this part of the sculpture better. And you start carving. And you're like, oh, if only I could go and undo like on a computer and go back to what I just had, So yeah, it's pretty interesting that way of sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not. It's every song is very unique in that way. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question we have is what does two-spirited mean?
So being two-spirit. Yeah, that's a good question. Something I'm still trying to figure out. So I've heard it explained a lot of different ways. And I'm not really sure which way is the right way. And so what I can share is that the word two-spirit and that concept was created in Winnipeg. And I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of the person who created it. Well, that person doesn't say they created it. They said that it was I think that creator or spirit spoke to them to share that they don't claim it. But in any case, it was something that was created or started in Winnipeg, and it was to find a way for Indigenous people to be represented in the LGBTQ kind of umbrella. So we're talking about LGBTQ people. We're like, well, how do Indigenous people fit into that? And so this concept of two-spirit came. And so that's how we were able to fit inside that umbrella. But really, when you think about it, it's more like LGBTQ fits under the umbrella of being two-spirit. Because being two-spirit is something that existed here, or I mean, the concept of where two-spirit comes from, because two-spirit is like a anglicized kind of way to explain something that shows up uniquely in just about every Indigenous group on this continent. So it's kind of something to be an umbrella term and kind of pan-indigenize, if you understand what that word means, because every Indigenous group is very unique, but sometimes we'll pan-indigenize things and create and be like Indigenous peoples. We'll talk about it as if it's a monolith or one thing, when really it's like a collection of so many things, of so many cultures and beliefs. But being two-spirit or being queer, being Indigenous, those were things that existed here before contact, before colonization. And so the LGBT community should actually fit under the two-spirit umbrella. But yeah, you'll find in a lot of different Indigenous groups that there were people who are queer, who were maybe many genders or a different gender, were accepted and kind of celebrated in these communities and had a role, much in the way that, like, I think queer people and gay and lesbian and bisexual and all these different folks in our communities now really play an important role when it comes to arts and cultures and moving forward social justice issues. Like, we're really leaders in all of these amazing ways, much how we had these amazing roles pre-contact. And so, yeah, two-spirit is just a way to kind of simplify that in a way that fits in the LGBTQ umbrella, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And then our last question. This one might be a little personal, so if you're not comfortable answering,
Sure.
no problem. How old were you when you came out?
That's a really good question. And I think for me, there were lots of moments of coming out. But I mean, I think some of the most notable moments where, like, I came out to my mom. I was, I think, 20 or 21 when I did that. 19. What is time? Yeah, I think I might have been 20, actually. And I was away at school, and I was kind of forced to come out because it was like someone else was going to tell my mom or something. It's kind of a stressful situation, and so I was kind of like forced a bit to come out because I wanted her to hear it from me first. And then I was just like on the phone. I was like, "Okay, tell Dad. Thanks. Bye." And yeah, so that was kind of a interesting time. But yeah, I think I was 20. But I mean, in high school, I came out to certain people that I felt like I could trust. But I don't really remember what age. I was probably like 16 or 17, something like that, which felt really scary. I grew up in rural Northern Ontario, and like people were not so kind to gay people. And yeah, so this is just coming out. Like, at that time, I came out as gay to those folks. And then yeah, later on, being 25 or 26 or 27, something like that, to come out as trans and non-binary. Yeah, there's lots. I feel like I have lots of coming out stories, and even later coming out as more like queer pansexual, and then changing my pronouns felt like a coming out, and even like changing my name felt like a whole coming out. So it's just, the joke is kind of like, how many more coming out situations am I going to have? How many more coming out parties am I going to have? But that's okay, because I think, gender and sexuality and all these things are very fluid and changing, and maybe you'll be more one thing for a bit, and then you'll be like, oh, you know what? I think I've changed, and I think it's changed a bit. So now I'm more this thing over here for a bit. And that's totally okay. And it can feel confusing and overwhelming, but like there's other people out there who are just like you, who are just trying to figure it out. And that's okay.
Thank you. And that's all we have. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Miigwech.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We are unfortunately out of time. So I'd like to thank the GR Gritt, of course, our youth ambassador, Two White Feather, and our classrooms for joining us during this DWF Live. If you want to learn more about Secret Path Week or want to know when our future DWF live sessions are, you can visit our website at downeywenjack.ca/DWF Live. You can also watch our previous DWF live sessions on our Facebook page and our YouTube account under Live. And they're both under the Gord Downey and Cheney Wenjack Fund. We have a short survey that will be dropping in the chat. Please let us know what you thought of today's program and what you would like to see for future DWF live sessions. If you enjoyed this broadcast, please feel free to share with your family, share it with your friends, maybe host a watch party with them. Again, thank you to everyone here today. And again, GR Gritt and Two White Feather. And thank you all for your comments. So this wraps up this DWF live session with GR Gritt. Bamapi.
Thank you so much. Bamapi.